So I've suggested that your default way of including JavaScript on your page is to have a script tag right before the closing body tag that just links to a separate JavaScript file. Well, it's also quite common to see several script tags here, and particularly common when it comes to having both your own code and one or more JavaScript libraries and perhaps a link to Google Analytics JavaScript and so on. But two things to keep in mind. You want to keep the amount of script tags here at a minimum, and the order of them matters. So why minimum? Well, just be aware that every JavaScript file you link to is a separate request the browser needs to make to the web server. The browser gets the HTML, it moves down through it, it sees the link to the JavaScript, and makes a call to the server for that first JavaScript file. It then waits for that file to finish downloading, and then, and only then, moves on to the next one, calls the web server for that file, and waits again. And that order continues. It doesn't download the JavaScript simultaneously, it will do it sequentially. And that means that the more files you have, the more requests the browser needs to make, and the slower your page is going to load. So while you might find it easy when writing JavaScript to have multiple small files, it's definitely worse for the user. So combine your JavaScript where you can. You should have as few JavaScript files as possible. And secondly, the order of the script tags matters. If you have a file of JavaScript that inside it calls a function in a second JavaScript file, well, you want to make sure to load that file before the code that tries to call this. This is very common with libraries. If you're using, for example, the jQuery library, you want to make sure that you load jQuery first before any JavaScript that might actually try to use jQuery. And the same goes for any other dependency. So sure, you can't always get this down to just one file, but you should certainly be very careful if you see this growing to 7 or a dozen, and see if you can't combine some of them together.